Well, good morning, everyone. It is more than midway through the month of February 2014. We are on a beautiful Tuesday, the 18th. It is, are we above freezing yet? Let me check real fast. We are. Well, kind of. We're at 32 degrees here in Indianapolis, which is one of the warmer mornings we've had for a couple months now, probably. We are expected a high of 44 today, and I want to give a heads up to you guys this Thursday, here in 2 days. Please pay attention to the weather. Up through the Midwest, we are expected some severe thunderstorms anywhere from the Gulf up to the Great Lakes, and everywhere in between. So just pay attention to what's going on around you. Pay attention to the weather alerts. I know sometimes they can be lagging. But definitely something that you need to be aware of. We get settled into the fact that snow is light and fluffy, but we are expected, like I said, some severe weather. So after that, we go back to snow, unfortunately. So it's still not spring yet. I think we're down to like in the 20 days until we reach spring. But just stay alert, pay attention, keep your ears and your eyes open. So let's get into some stuff today. Consider this maybe your call to action show, however you want to refer to it. But I know there's been a lot of chatter in and about all of the groups and rooms and stuff that I stalk on a daily basis. You know, people are starting to put two and two together, which is great to see. Don't get me wrong, but it's also setting off some hysteria, especially, when they realize the rabbit trail that they end up going down, especially when they wake up and they see the people that they know that they should be able to trust, and they realize that those aren't the people to trust. So some things in the news that I want to get into. If you need an opportunity to speak to someone about preparedness, now is an awesome time to use what's in the news to do so. There is just stuff coming at us from all directions. And I think it's important that A, we talk about these things, but B, start putting two and two together and getting more and more people prepared for what's ahead. It's funny, I was talking to, as some of you know, unfortunately over the last couple of weeks, someone that I know was shot and killed here in Indianapolis. And, I was talking to the detective on Friday, and he flat out told me that things are not going to get better. They don't know what's going on. It's just, it's widespread throughout Indianapolis. I know there are many of other cities that are in the same boat we are. There was a news report, probably a month ago now, that talked about the fact that, every day we wake up here and someone has been shot and killed. And I think we far exceeded even Chicago's stats right now on the amount of murders per capita that we have. So I was talking to him, and like I said, he didn't have answers to any of the questions I had on what was going on. I've not seen it. I've lived here 6 years now. And, which isn't a whole long time, but when I moved here, you didn't hear about stuff like this. And we had the Super Bowl, which of course, the government pumps a lot of money into the city to make sure it has this wholesome image. And as soon as the Super Bowl left, quite honestly, the city has been falling apart faster each day. And I know there are various aspects of them coming back, the Super Bowl in, I think, 2018, which, they'll pump some more money into the city and get the police force back to work and clean up the streets and whatnot. But it also brings with us other headaches such as human trafficking, which is a huge concern. We already have issues with that here in Indianapolis. We don't need more. But I do not live in the city itself. I do work there, though. So, and I have a lot of people that I care for as I'm traveling around in the city to visit them, that I want to try and keep as safe as possible. So talking with the police and working with them is hot on my list right now of things to do. But I'm just going to run through the news. If you're not paying attention and you don't really watch the news, be a good time to do so. And this is going to be hit and miss. There's no rhyme or reason to how I'm going to go through this, other than I'm scrolling down through our Prepper Chicks blue wall. I do have multiple Facebook sites for a reason. Our pink page is for skill sets. We try not to post a whole lot of news on there, so that way we keep it clean and argue free. Because once you start adding people's opinions on what's going on in the world, it turns into a clusterfuck. So I created a page called Prepper Chicks Blue, where I dump all of anything that piques my interest, really. It could be tinfoil hat news. It could be straight up what's off of the mainstream media. It could be anything like that. So again, there's no rhyme or reason to it. But in the news this morning, we had another banker jump to his death. This time, where was this guy at? I want to say in China somewhere. Let me scroll down through here. An investment banker on Tuesday jumped to his death from the roof of Chater House in Central. So yes, not here in the United States. It's a 30-floor building. In Hong Kong, in their business district, off of, again, JP Morgan. I know that people have talked about, I think this is the 8th big one that's been reported, but you start digging and there's a whole lot more than just 8. So you gotta wonder and question why that's happening. I know there were reports of one guy that decided to take himself out with a nail gun, which is one hell of a way to go. There are conflicting reports, just a heads up, that there's some old news that's been lumped in there with that report specifically. So just make sure you get the right one, because some other guy tried to take himself out with a nail gun, and they said it was suicide. And if you look at it, the guy was shot from behind with the nail gun, so that's, damn near impossible to do. But lots in the financial district going on. Bitcoins are hot in the news again. If you follow what's going on in Argentina, we'll get to that in just a second. Capital One, if you have a Capital One card, if you have any kind of credit cards, quite honestly, you need to get them cut up and get the hell away from them. Getting out of debt is a hot priority for a prepper. And here's one of the reasons why. Capital One reserves the right to contact its customers in any manner they choose, including via phone, text, email, fax, or even a personal visit. The personal visits can be at your home and at your place of employment. That's according to the company's recent contract update it sent to cardholders. Unsurprisingly, the creepy language has customers concerned. This came out of, this is out of the Blaze, that came out this morning. And I know it's hit, the LA Times. Everybody's chattering about this. But, if you do not read the fine print on anything, you quite honestly need slapped upside the head. But can you imagine, having an overdue credit card and they come to visit your house? It'd be pretty interesting for them to come visit my house. I can tell you, it would probably last about one time, but you really need to read the fine print on this stuff. I know debtors' prisons have been popping up around the country. There was one woman that was arrested, and I didn't read through it. It just, it is what it is. But there was a report I skimmed through about a woman who didn't return a movie she had rented, and they arrested her. So, law enforcement, questionable what the hell is going on. And I'm sure, that sometimes that a lot of them have to question what they're being told to do. But, get out of debt, get rid of your credit cards, get your bills paid off, because you don't need that overhead, if there is a shit hit the fan scenario. We had an asteroid pass by, Earth last night, supposedly the size of 3 football fields. Obviously, we're still here, so that's a good thing. There was an additional earthquake last night that was over 6.5 out of Barbados. have not heard of any tsunami warnings at this time, but that just happened not very long ago. Add that to the 4.4 that we just had in South Carolina, backed up by, I think, a 3.2 aftershock. We had a 4.2 in Oklahoma. Just the earth is definitely rumbling right now. I know a lot of people, when the 4.4 hit South Carolina, we posted it to our wall, and we got, oh, that's nothing. For you guys in California that get those all the time, yeah, you have every right to say, oh, that's nothing. But for folks in South Carolina and Georgia that have never felt an earthquake before, give them some credit. This is new. Our structures on the East Coast are not built the same way that you guys have to build on the West Coast. So, one of the things that we've talked about in the past is be sensitive to other people's feelings and what they're going through. Just because you might be one of those super prepared people doesn't mean other people are, and you do not want to put them off because of your attitude. We're trying to get through this and what's coming ahead with as many people as possible that have woken up and taken the steps necessary to protect themselves and those that they love. So, just something to consider there. Let's see here. DARPA unveils autonomous drones to fight alongside warriors on the battlefield. If you haven't been following what's going on with our military, you'd be surprised to see how, quite honestly, the need for human involvement in war is becoming obsolete. Some of the automated weapons that they're coming up with are just frightening. In a good way, it's always great that we don't have human involvement in those things, but, their main concern is to take out the other side. So unfortunately, someone will die in that. Whether you believe in war or not, it happens. And, you need to be aware of what's going on, because just because we have the technology, don't think that somebody else doesn't have it too. Going back, the feds want to track your DNA like a license plate. The federal government doesn't want the ability to track down just your car. It wants to be able to track down your body as well. Just as details are emerging about controversial nationwide vehicle surveillance database. We've learned that the federal government is planning an even more invasive spy program using psychological signatures to track down individuals. Please read up on this stuff. It's quite fascinating. And you think you're quite safe in your home? You're not. So definitely pay attention. Here's another report from a website called thetruthwins.com. And it is 32 privacy-destroying technologies that are systematically transforming America into a giant prison. Number one, spying on us through our televisions with these new smart TVs that hook up to Amazon, Yahoo, YouTube. We've already seen reports of the interference in our daily lives with these, what they refer to as smart TVs. Number two, next generation facial recognition technology. Number three, your next password might be your eye. Number four, pre-crime surveillance cameras. Yes, it does happen. And I believe there are movies about that. Number five, new software that will store and analyze millions of our voices. I think it's called Voice Grid Nation is what the system is called. Number six, a device that captures your fingerprints from 20 feet away. You don't have to touch the thing. It captures your fingerprints from 20 feet away. You just swipe your hand in front of it. Bam. Number seven, molecule scanners that can secretly scan you from 164 feet away. Number eight, mobile backscatter vans. You see somebody out and around your house that shouldn't be there? Our cops are set to join the U.S. military in deploying American Science and Engineering Z backscatter vans, or mobile backscatter radiation X-rays. These are what TSA officials call the Amazing Radioactive Genital Viewer. now seen in your local airport, ionizing the private parts of children, the elderly, and now you. Number 9, RFID microchips in our schools. We're already seeing that all the time, which leads into number 10, the palm scanning devices in our schools. And add to that, number 11, the iris scanning devices in our schools. I pulled my last child out of the public school system for various reasons. This one was a concern when they rolled out the fact that he doesn't, all he has to do is use his finger to pay for his school lunch. Number 12, implantable medical laboratory on a chip. It's perceived as a good thing. I know there are hospitals, the last one I read about was in Florida, an Alzheimer's hospital where they implant chips into their patients because they do get up and they do wander off. It's a good thing that they can track them down. But always these good things turn into things that we don't want in our everyday life. So please pay attention and please cut through the bullshit when it comes to what's best for you and your family. Number 13, smartphone eye scanners. Yes, you can carry an eye scanner around with you now. Number 14, cell phone tower stingrays. You make a call on your cell phone thinking the only thing standing between you and the recipient of your call is your carrier cell tower. In fact, that tower your phone is connecting to just might be a booby trap set up by law enforcement to ensnare your phone signals and maybe even the content of your calls. Number 15, using your cell phone microphone as a roving bug. You've got your cell phone turned off even. It's just sitting there. The FBI has the ability to turn your microphone on and listen to what's going on. It's called a roving bug. And it was approved by top U.S. Department of Justice officials. It was approved against members of organized crime families in New York. But, you know how that goes. They use it, they turn it on for one thing and approve it. And before you know it, it's hitting all of us. Number 16, the government is using our cell phones again to track our movements. It's great technology, this cell phone that we all have. But if you understand the magnitude of how it can be used against us, it's quite startling. Number 17, police using extraction devices to take our cell phone data. 18, automated license plate readers. I know police cars can just travel down a road or down the freeway, along parked cars, wherever, and they have machines hooked to the front of their cars that they can automatically read license plates. Number 19, street lights that can record private messages or private conversations. Number 20, spying us through our video game systems. I think it was the Xbox was the first one that brought this to our attention. But really pay attention to what you're getting your kids into. Number 21, data mining. 22, a new technology called coin is being called the future of money. It looks like a credit card. It's the size of a credit card. It swipes like a credit card. It holds information for up to 8 of your debit, credit, rewards, or gift cards. You simply switch between cards by pressing a button. 23, a national database of all financial transactions. It's kind of scary when you walk into the grocery store and the coupons they print out after you've paid for your merchandise. It's the same stuff you buy. How do they know how to do that? Start questioning. 24, the coming national DNA database. No surprise there. Most of them are after our DNA anyways. 25, the systematic recording of talk radio programs. Oh my goodness. 26, the FBI's next generation identification system. The U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation has begun rolling out its new $1 billion biometric next generation identification, or NGI, as it's called. In essence, NGI is a nationwide database of mugshots, iris scans, DNA records, voice samples, and other biometrics that will help the FBI identify and catch criminals. But it is how this biometric data is captured through a nationwide network of cameras and photo databases that is raising the eyebrows of privacy advocates. When you post pictures to Facebook, don't think that they're not using those. 27, Trapwire. You are being watched. The government has a secret system, a machine that spies on you every hour of every day. This is how each episode of Person of Interest on CBS begins. 28, Spyware that monitors the behavior of government workers. 29, political campaign databases. You know, you see how all these databases are being used against us. And I have to question sometimes, and my husband and I have talked about this, especially as a firearm owner. The NRA has one of the biggest databases out there for who supports firearm ownership and who doesn't. With all of these other databases being used against us, you know, is it a good thing? You have to wonder. 30, spying us through our appliances. Spies will no longer have to plant bugs in your home. The rise of connected gadgets controlled by apps will mean that people bug their own homes. You can read these devices via the internet and your smartphones, and perhaps even via radio waves from outside the home. Number 31, unmanned aerial drones. I think that's gotten a lot of our attention, especially the fact of how not just the military anymore, but even companies like Amazon and Domino's Pizza have talked about utilizing drones for, you know, their business, delivering your packages, delivering pizza. I think there was a drone overseas that delivered a pizza via drone. And 32, of course, our illustrious NSA snooping that's going on. Five futuristic weapons that could change warfare. Number 5, hyperstealth or quantum stealth. 4, electromagnetic railguns. 3, space weapons. 2, hypersonic cruise missiles and prompt global strikes. And number 1, sentient unmanned vehicles, drones. You know, this all seems like one big science fiction film. But it's not. It's the world that we live in right now. Does it sound like it's tinfoil? It does. To a lot of people, it does. Until you start digging into it and realize that it is reality. I remember probably the first time I saw an unmanned drone, I was driving to Florida a few years back, and 3 of them came straight at me across the freeway as I was heading into Orlando. And wish I would have been able to, I was unfortunately by myself, so I was driving, grab my camera on my phone or something fast enough to take pictures, but that didn't happen. But it's a scary world that we live in nowadays. And a lot of people, like I said, are starting to ask questions. And as a prepper, as someone that's into preparedness, we need to be able to talk to people about their concerns, because more often than not, they are going to go through a rough time until, they get pissed off. It's kind of the same as with anything. They're going to freak out. They're probably, if they're, female, they're going to cry a lot and whatnot. And then they're just going to get pissed off. But they're going to start looking for answers. And it's our responsibility as those people that have already been down that road to help them get ready. Because unfortunately, as each day goes by, the less time that they have in order to get prepared. So please take it upon yourself to help these people out. Because you're going to see more and more, hopefully, come walk on the wild side with us, if you want to call it that. Unfortunately, just like with anything that's going on out there, sometimes it takes a natural disaster to wake people up, but it is what it is, and we just need to be there to catch them when they fall. I don't know if you saw over the weekend, Australia scrambles planes in response to Chinese warships near its waters. George Soros, if you don't follow him, please do. He's been in the news over the weekend, especially if you start following the monetary trends that are going on out there. Venezuela devalues its currency. We've had reports of Americans completely reliant on China for antibiotics. This came out of thedailycaller.com. It's always a good thing to have alternative forms of medication in your home, in your preparedness items, essential oils, herbs, those kind of things. Try not to get caught up in some of the generic antibiotics and stuff that are going on out there. We don't know at this point. I know we've seen, the FDA and whatnot, and how well, and I'm being sarcastic here, how well they regulate things. So if we're getting our antibiotics from China, I would be very concerned with that. The Air Force has announced that they're cutting over 23,000 positions this year. We saw over the weekend an Ethiopian Airlines flight that was bound for Rome had to land in Geneva. Someone swiped an airplane again. So obviously people are getting very jumpy. Of course, Iran has been in the news numerous times. They said that they're ready for a decisive prophetic battle with Israel and the U.S. They have positioned several of their ships off of our maritime borders. When you have a president that is perceived as weak, you're going to see people that mean to do us harm show up to the party. Italy has imposed a 20% tax withholding on all inbound funds. That's got to hurt. And it's got to be pissing a lot of people off. Kickstarter has announced over the weekend that their company had been hacked. And a lot of their customer database, personal financial information was stolen. And I could go on and on and on. But like I said, a lot of people are waking up to what's going on in the news just because there's so much. Can you trust mainstream media? In my opinion, no, you cannot. They force feed you what they think you should know. You need to really dig in and get involved with alternative sites such as UCY. There's a lot of hosts on this site that have what's going on in truth, as opposed to, like I said, what's being force fed. So what do you do when these people start coming to you? Let's call this our call to get ready. And if you're preparing, you need to start bumping that up a notch. One of the first things that you need to understand and you need to think about And everybody asks, so what's the areas of preparedness you need to look at? And we talked about this last week on our After Dark show. Everybody, starts spitting out, food, water, shelter, those kind of things. In my opinion, the will to live is the most important one. If something happens in a downgrade situation and you've lost someone you love dearly, if you don't give a shit at that time, you're probably not going to survive on what's coming up. If you don't have the will to live, it's over with. So determining that you want to make sure that you get through what's coming up is the most important thing. There's been case documented after documented after documented that the ones that survive are the ones that want to. They've also had a reason to stay alive. More often than not, the doctors, the nurses, the caregivers are the ones that make it through because they have a duty to do. They're trying to make sure everybody else stays alive. So think about that. Next area of preparedness is your knowledge. Build your knowledge prep. It's something that cannot be taken away from you. Don't get caught up in being a ninja prepper. Think of it as the same thing as a mall ninja. Those guys, those security guys that carry all the big belts with all the fancy equipment and stuff. And half of them don't know how to use it anyways. Same concept. Don't get caught up in having to have the newest gadget, the newest survival tool or whatever. You don't need all that stuff. A lot of people can't afford all that stuff. We've looked and talked about, doomsday preppers and, they do put some good information out there sometimes. Sometimes you have to weed through the bullshit. But not every prepper out there is $1 million prepper that can afford a plane or a helicopter to get out of their situation. They can't afford a $40,000 to $50,000 underground bunker. Build your knowledge preps. They can't be taken away from you. Think back to Moore, Oklahoma. An entire town was taken out by a tornado. One tornado. How many people had their preps in their homes and lost everything? You cannot physically carry enough water to survive for any length of time. You have to be able to know how to purify it. What if you don't have bleach? What are you going to do? We call it having backups to your backups to your backups. So once you have determined that you want to live through whatever's coming up and you start building your knowledge preps, then you can get into the different segments of preparedness. Probably the most important one, of course, is water. You have to have water to survive. After a while, if you are not hydrated, your mind starts shutting down, your body starts shutting down, you're not thinking straight, and you make stupid mistakes. 3 days. And it's pretty much over with. So, as referred to as backups to your backups, you have an immediate drinking supply on hand. Rule of thumb is 1 gallon per person per day. And you're going to have to determine how much room you have to store and how much you want to store for. How big your family is. 1 gallon per person per day. And that's bare minimum drinking water. A lot of people say, oh, that's a lot of water to drink in one day. Well, you know what? If there's a downgrade situation and you're more physically active than you are now, you're probably going to be thirstier. How many people are going to go through soda withdrawal? Your body's going to need the water. 1 gallon per person per day, minimum. That does not include hygiene, cooking, cleaning, or anything else. That's a lot of water. 1 gallon of water weighs approximately 8 pounds. Again, you cannot physically carry enough water to survive for a week. It's impossible. So you have your immediate water storage, but then you also need to figure out how you're going to replenish that. Where are you going to get it from? Please don't rely on a natural water source, a river, a lake, or anything like that. You need to have multiple avenues. We've seen what happened just recently in West Virginia. The entire river was contaminated. That was drinking water for multiple cities along the Ohio River. So if your river, your creek, your lake gets contaminated in some way, you're screwed if that's what you're relying upon. Another option might be to have some kind of catchment system off of your downspouts on your house. But look at what kind of shingles you also have, what kind of contaminants are getting in it. You're going to need to know how to filter it and then purify it. And we do have information about this on our website. Just go to www.properchicks.org, and we have a ton of information, and I still need to find time to get more uploaded on there. But it's free. I'm not one of those people that's going to have you pay for it. This is life-saving information. I'm not here to make a buck off of you. I do it because I care. So get on the website, get the stuff downloaded, get it printed, put it in a binder, put it in multiple binders. Everyone in your family should have their own binder. If there's one binder in your family and you get divided for some reason, who gets to keep the binder with all the information in it? You should have multiple avenues there for each family member. So think of it as, again, water, back up to your backup to your backup. Great. You got immediate water to drink. But how are you going to replenish that? Where are you going to get it from? Keep going down that rabbit trail. The more backups to your backups that you have, the more prepared you are. Food. I'm not going to push one of those big packages of $1,000, you're going to live off of this stuff for a year, messes that they have going on out there. They're just selling. I'm a rep for a food company called Shelf Reliance. Don't get me wrong. It's good stuff. It's one of the best ones that I like out there. But, who the hell knows how to cook with that stuff unless you're using it every day? Do you know what it's going to do to your body to flip from what you're eating now over to a freeze-dried, dehydrated food system? You're going to be in misery in more ways than one. My suggestion is to sit down and write down recipes of actual food that you eat now. Write down 21 different recipes, 7 for breakfast, 7 for lunch, 7 for dinner. And don't forget snacks in there too. Go get yourself a big ass tote. Write down the recipes for those meals. Peace.